Well, Carson Daly joining us each summer to talk about The Voice, and this happens to be your birthday. What in the world are you doing joining us on your birthday?
Well, I figured if I could just work, long and hard on my birthday, it would distract the fact that I'm getting older. So I'm sort of immersed myself today in things to do, and maybe I'll wake up tomorrow and realize I'm not as old as I am.
Well, I hid under a rock on my birthday this year. It was a bad one.
Yeah, I usually book a flight on my actual birthday, and it drives my wife crazy. She's like, "How are we going to celebrate?" And I'm like, "That's the idea. You can't get to me at 36,000 feet."
Well, let's talk about The Voice on the Emmy ballots, and people are voting right now. And your team was the big Emmy winner again last September, your second time winning a reality competition series. Just tell us about that night and that moment.
It's always special. It's not something that we ever really, think about. We have been, riding this wave of success on this show that, basically is, almost 90 hours of primetime television for NBC, straddling the calendar of fall and spring. So, we're sort of always working. There's never really an off season, if you will. So there's never any time to stop and think, wow, what a year. We won an Emmy. We're just always working and kind of always going. And I think that's good because it keeps us grounded in the job and the task at hand. But that night was special, obviously. Honestly, being nominated, I know it's the biggest cliche in the world, but for us, really means everything. A lot of hardworking people on this show. As I've said very publicly, there's over like 200 people that make the show possible, and it's a night that when your peers and you're in that competition category, and there's such great shows now. Content spreads so thin through so many outlets, and so many people are making great television, especially in the cable spectrum and everywhere else, that we really do feel honored to be a part of it, and then just be lucky enough to just win. It's really just probably dumb luck, and it's exciting. We're grateful.
Yeah, it's always a stellar group that you're up against. I know you feel like The Voice is the best show going, especially in reality, but tell us why. Tell us, you see all of these people working hard and you see the product you're putting together from week to week. Just tell us why you feel like it's the best thing out there.
I think it's because it's just a good natural reflection of community, of real people. It's Mark Burnett obviously makes cinematic television. He produces things that just look amazing. But it's the stories. I think the best thing about our shows, obviously we have this great format. The blind auditions with these big red chairs turning are super fun. I think it's great family entertainment. I mean, it has all those trappings that just make it a good TV show. But it wouldn't be, I don't think, elevated to the success that it's at without really just a snapshot of Americans at their finest. I mean, we find these people who are, they are trying to make a living in music, but they run the gamut of being 15 to, we have a 56-year-old in season 11 that I interviewed yesterday, and everything in between, all walks of life. They're from everywhere, and they're just such quality people. And I feel like their stories and their, what they've overcome or what they're willing to do to get a shot at The Voice, how much they love music. It's just such feel-good TV that I think it's like the strongest part of the show. Now, obviously, you have Blake and Adam, who are they're like a scripted sitcom, the two of them. So it's the combination of all these things that I think makes The Voice so special.
That could be your next project. Your production company, if they ever have time, could do a sitcom with Adam and Blake.
I don't think it would be as successful as what we're getting now because no one. They don't have to be funny. They don't have to deliver, It's really a bonus. If there was a show that was scripted and the show's really on, its success predicated on the fact of how funny they are or they're written, I don't really know if it would play as well because they're just so naturally, witty to one another and comfortable. And now we're excited because we have, for the first time ever, two female coaches in the mix, so this dynamic will be totally different.
Well, I want to talk about that in a moment, but let me compliment you on something because I know you wouldn't do it, and I would love to see you get in for reality host because what you do is like a ringmaster. I mean, and I don't think people fully appreciate how difficult that is to pull all those elements together as a host. But when you're out talking to a potential, audition contestant, or you're backstage with their families watching them perform, your passion and enthusiasm just comes through every single time. We could tell you're not just doing that for the camera. You really are hoping this works out for that person and that family.
I am, and thanks for the nice words. I appreciate that. It's very nice. And by the way, it should look like this. I think, hosts of these shows should be almost invisible. When you buy a good book, you don't examine, the binder. You look at the artwork on the cover and the words in between. But the thing holding it together that's what they're supposed to do. And that's really what I try and do, is literally just be the host and be the host to the people on the show. And my Twitter feed always goes nuts for the first month of the show when the chairs are turning and I'm with all the families. It's my favorite part of the show, aside from just being live, because I like to live TV more than taping things. But I genuinely am so happy to be working in that kind of reality format with regular people, because I feel like I can just be myself. I can relate to them. And my job is to make them feel comfortable. I mean, let's be honest. We're at Universal Studios in Hollywood. We're in a soundstage that's enormous. We're in 4 fake walls, and we're making it seem like it's a very comfortable environment. And so on or off camera, I want to make sure that the 85 to 100 invited artists for the blind auditions and their 4, 5, 6 family members that come with them, that's 500 people that are on our lot. And I take it very personal that they're on my show. And I want them, if they came to my house, I'd want them to feel comfortable. And I think I take that philosophy with the show. And I don't have a shtick. There's not a lot of bells and whistles. I enjoy taking care of the artists and their families in that part of the format. And then it's wrangling the coaches and, being kind of that traffic cop. There's a lot of times I feel like I'm in Times Square and it's you can go and you stop, and the coaches are talking and artists are coming off the stage. And of course, in my ears, the network telling me to go to break. And, it's all that. And that's the few skills that I have. And I'm from radio and from MTV and my whole career. So this show really is the perfect show for me to host. And I just have fun doing it.
Give us a little sneak peek on next season. You mentioned the 2 new hosts 2 new coaches coming in. Alicia Keys has been an advisor before, and then Miley Cyrus, she blew me away last year when she came in and did that whole session with all 4 coaches being their advisor. I'm sure that caught the attention of you and the other producers as you thought about maybe bringing her in as a coach this year.
Yeah, and by the way, she's been on obviously our short list for a long time. Because we're fans of hers. But yeah, she blew us away when she came in and was kind of the overall mentor. Miley's somebody that has been on camera. Obviously, she's grown up on camera. She's so comfortable in front of the cameras. That's part of the thing when we get, one of these big A-list musicians to come on the show, who don't have a tremendous amount of television, in their background. Like Usher, his first day of the blind auditions, it took a second. I think maybe after a half day, that his first day of the blind auditions at our lunch, I remember the producers, we sat with him and we're just like, hey, relax out there. This is supposed to be fun, have fun. And you can see him, slowly become really comfortable, and he came to life. And of course he became one of a lot of people's favorite coach. So Miley, she starts at 100 miles an hour, and that's really good for us as producers because immediately she's delivering and we roll cameras everywhere and all the time. And I think there's, obviously with her music chops, one interesting dynamic that I can tell you that'll be new for us on The Voice is when we have a country artist come out. Historically, they're staring at the back of Blake's chair because he's our country guy. I think with Miley, she has such rich country roots and she's such a fan of country music, and her idea of country music is like old. Like, Dolly Parton is literally her godmother. Obviously, with her father's success, she knows Nashville. She appreciates the greats. So I think that'll be an interesting thing. Blake will have some competition. Even though she's clearly a pop star, I could see a young country person, really being sold on the idea of going to Miley's team. So there's a dynamic for Blake. Plus Miley and her big personality, I think will be interesting, juxtaposed to Adam Levine. So there's lots of new dynamics between our coaches this year.
It won't be just an automatic for a country artist with Blake anymore.
Correct. Yeah.
On the Emmy, you're different than some of the reality shows in that for the Emmy cycle, you've got 2 seasons to consider, but you have to pick one episode. Which did you pick something from the Jordan Smith season or from this most recent season with Allison Porter?
I believe it was from the Jordan season, but I'm not 100% sure. That would be probably a decision at the end of the day made by some input. I know we all were like, it should be this episode, it should be that, but there's a lot of producers on the show, and I think probably Mark Burnett or Paul Telegny or somebody at the network had the final say on which exact episode it was for submission.
As I watched this year, I was thinking, if I talk to Carson, I want to think of a couple of good technical questions. Mm-hmm. I know when we're at home watching in the blind auditions, we're seeing some of the people, their backstories, and also on the last few, the live rounds, the coaches and the studio audience are seeing the packages that you put together. I'm wondering, during like a knockout round or a battle round, are the people in the audience and the coaches seeing the background stories that you put together on the rehearsals and such?
That's a great question. And, when we started out doing The Voice, we did it like season 1. And I remember shooting the first battles, and it took a long time because we were rolling in all of these packages. And if I remember correctly, it was like the coaches were saying, this is taking forever. How do we speed this up? And I think we started to omit them and we inserted them in post. But then we felt like we were losing some of the heart. We felt like we were going to get better content. We put them back in. So for 99% of the seasons now, we roll all of the rehearsal edited packages to the studio audience so they can see it, like the home audiences see it, and as a refresher for our coaches and for the other coaches. When Adam's working with an artist and that package is built, like, all right, we're going to do this song this week, and we struggled, and then we play that 2-minute package. The other coaches have never seen that. So by playing it in the room, it allows also the other coaches to see where they started with the song earlier in the week, and then to watch the performance live, and it gives them, some good talking points. So now we roll everything in.
Well, that's why I was wondering, in those 2 rounds in particular, where you have the steals, and I thought, if I'm a coach and I'm seeing that package, it might influence me. If I see somebody really working hard, or I see the progress they made from the beginning of the rehearsal to what I just saw live, I think that would influence me if I was a coach.
I think it has. I think, and that steals, obviously, I think one of the best things we've added onto the show. We started to get so much talent. It was just like, as producers in those battle rounds without the steals, just great singers were leaving our show, only 40% into the season. And we're like, oh my God, we have to think of a way to keep good performances on TV. That's our job. And those steal came up. And you're right. I think having those packages and showing, and some people are just naturally great singers and have always had it and don't work a lot. Some people, we see their growth go from the blinds to the live shows, and we're all like, oh my God, no, we never saw so-and-so coming. And those packages do show a lot of that work ethic. And those are all, reasons that people get stolen.
I was also wondering about, there have been artists over the years. There was one during the spring session that we barely ever saw them sing. What goes into the decision for that on a particular artist? She made it pretty far. I don't remember her name, but she made it pretty far this season.
I don't know who you mean. You mean somebody who maybe ends up in a montage instead of seeing their entire audition?
Well, I believe she made it all the way into either the battle rounds or so. I'll look it up while you talk. Okay.
Yeah, sometimes it's all timing. We also, with cameras and experimenting, using GoPros and, fly on the wall shots, we've changed the production a lot. Last season was the first season. Season 10, we're doing it. Season 11 is the first time I've ever been in the actual room where they're doing the blind auditions, and the families are within 10 feet of the stage watching their loved one perform. Before, we used to cut back and forth from me in the rooms and the families watching on a monitor. Those were actually in 2 different sound stages. Now we're a lot more kind of in the moment and live, and I'm with the families and we're watching 10 feet away, and you can see them waving to their parents right before they start singing. So we shoot things a little bit differently now. And with the new kind of tweaks in the production and the format, we do a lot of coach comments and stuff after. And a lot of the banter between the coaches. Some of that eats away at our clock, and so we end up having to put montages. And some people in battle rounds and knockout rounds end up in truncated form.
Okay, I didn't know. I got to interview some of your eliminated artists on Wednesdays this season, and I always ask them this question. I just wonder your take on it. I know, and I think it happens to almost everybody eventually, the battle internally to get rights to a song. I know, artists will request something, or the coach will request something. How difficult is that sometimes to get the rights from the publisher?
That's not my area, but I can tell you from being around it that it seems to me that the batting average on wishful thinking and trying to clear a song has been really high. And I think it's getting a little bit easier because a lot of these artists that don't typically clear stuff have seen The Voice now, and I think deem it a very safe place for their music to be authentic and credible. And certainly the artists that we have singing them are of a caliber that reflects the song's status quite well. There are examples of that this past season. I remember Adam's always like, we got it cleared, it's a Paul McCartney song or whatever it is. This has never been cleared, and we got it cleared. Sometimes our coaches will reach out to the artists because they have a relationship there, and there'll be clearance done that way. There's not a lot that anymore that I don't recall hearing, a lot of, we just couldn't get that cleared. So I think most things, but again, that clearance, there is a whole division in our music department on the show that is dedicated to just that.
These kind of things always fascinate me. That's why I thought I would bring a couple of them up. The other technical thing I wanted to ask you about, which we've never talked about in one of our chats, is your band is phenomenal. I know you give them a shout out just about every episode, but to go through all of the genres they go through, I'm sure there's lots of last minute changes, and they really hold the whole show together.
They do. And there's you just can't say enough about Paul Markovich and his band, all of them. I mean, there's like 15 of them, and I should make a documentary about kind of, because it's really unbelievable how many songs they have to learn for the blind auditions, and they have to cut everything down to 90 seconds. The only thing I can compare it to is, maybe like Paul Schaefer and the CBS Orchestra when Letterman was there, the songs that they have to learn, and they're all amazing musicians. So from like maybe a late night show, but even more than that. And it's really unbelievable. And I always say, sometimes when I say, give it up for Paul Markovich and the Voice Band, I'll think, and I was like, they've just tonight alone, they've done everything from like, Selena Gomez to Earth, Wind and Fire, and like every genre, and they nail it every time. And they're really incredible. Thanks for mentioning them, because the show's not really the same show without them. It's just not. We're nowhere near as good.
Well, even in the little short segments we see on rehearsals, just watching a Pharrell or Adam or somebody, having them change on the fly, whole bits and whole, I don't understand that whole world, but just, I don't know how they do that.
I don't either, but that's really fun stuff for us, hardcore music fans to watch. I love when we leave a lot of that kind of like the game within the game of the music business in there, and Pharrell's in the studio with an artist, and they're singing a song and it's not quite working out, and Pharrell will just stop and pace and go, "Hey Paul, let's knock that down 2 octaves, and what, can you give me like, let's try a 6-part jazz intro," and you know what I mean? He'll kind of talk the talk, and they'll be right there. How about this? And you see this come to life, this tailoring of this moment, this song for this artist. And you have to have musicians who operate at the highest of level to be able to pull that off, and they do week in and week out.
I think the last 3 seasons, the sort of presumed front runner has won. Is there any concern internally that it's I don't know if you watch us, but we do a big predictions website, and we have people breaking and doing all that kind of stuff, and we, whatever the case may be, we've nailed the last 3 champions like at the beginning of the season. Is there any concern internally that is becoming a little predictable?
No, I mean, I hear what you're saying. Certainly with, Allison had that Linda Ronstadt blind audition that just was one of those special ones, and she has that voice, and she's and it kind of she was just excellent all season long, and she ended up being a front runner, I guess, and Jordan was kind of that way. So but listen, we're on our 11th season. We've had 10 winners. I think there's been more seasons where we didn't have a front runner than when we did. And sometimes, and God bless Christina Grimmie, which was such an emotional story for all of us more recently. And let me just say how hard it is still for all of us, that we're praying for her family, who I know well and our show knows well. But I think of Christina's season, she was really a front runner. Josh Kaufman, I believe, won that year, who wasn't a front runner and kind of got strong kind of in the live shows. Jake Worthington was on Team Blake. He was the country artist that year. He actually came in second. So we've had our seasons where, these perceived front runners also, didn't go on to run away with it. So, if you get it, you get it. But as long as there's just amazing talent on the show, I think we feel like we're doing a good job.
Well, I've got to say, I think the people at home that are considering auditioning and getting ready, they are getting better and better. I mean, your audition rounds are, I mean, people come out almost fully formed. I mean, you do see people that really do progress over a season with their coaching and all, but the people as they start are better than they've ever been.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think you're getting a lot of seasoned people. There's also, I think a lot of it's generational. You know, when I was, 22, I don't know if I would have had the confidence to go on a television show in front of, 10, 15 million people and sing for 90 seconds, even if I thought it was good. I mean, it's not entitlement. That doesn't sound good, but there is this real confidence with the younger generation. And that's really holding them in good stead because, man, they're coming on stage and like, let me do this. Reality TV and content and media is just so much in their forefront that, the idea of being on a TV show is not as far-fetched as it was, maybe 10 years ago. So a lot of that is just yielding great auditions. And I think also people who are gigging, real young musicians who are in the hotbeds of music like Memphis or Austin or New York or Boston or LA, Dallas, they are coming to us. And so we're getting better people. And it's just that simple because I think they probably never would have stood in a line at, a Home Depot to get on an American Idol or to get on, another singing show. I think they've seen what we do with The Voice, and it's an experience that I feel, authenticity and music credibility. And we never obviously built this show to make fun of anybody. I think that's like, look at the A-list, all the coaches that we're getting. If you'd asked them 5 years ago, we had a hard time loading the panel at first. It was hard to get these A-listers. And now, like, they all want to be on the show, which is great. It just means the show's credible musically. And it's really amazing how every season I'm blown away at how much stronger it gets.
Well, I agree, and totally enjoyed the past couple of seasons, and always good talking with you in the summer, and good luck with the Emmys again.
Thank you very much. We'll be there. We'll be happy just to be in the building. So if we are even nominated, so we'll see how it all shakes out. But we appreciate all the work that you guys do there, and to all the viewers too for their input and for supporting the show. So thanks.
And happy birthday, and enjoy your family.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'll do that.